the free and the military. In 1833, Port Arthur was now changing into secondary punishment, so Reverend Manton was asked to find the settlement a new cemetery. He chose the island there, describing it as a very secure and undisturbed resting place where everybody could lie together until the morning of the resurrection. He then determined that the convicts were the sinners in life, so therefore they were to have the lower half of the island with no recognition. That meant no grave furnishings. It wasn't until 1854 before a convict was allowed to have any sort of recognition via a memorial stone. So of the 900 odd convicts that are buried there, 9 of them have what we call memorial stones. Whereas your free and your military, yep, they've got their stones. So it's about 1,100 people buried on the island, guys. It is 2.1 acre island. Do say they could take up to about 2,000 people. When you hear the stories of communal graves and vertical graves, I can tell you it did not happen on this island. You hear of open graves with the lime being thrown on the bodies, etc. It did not happen here either. Everybody was respected in death and buried individually. That's not to say you did not have your family graves, which we have today. So you do have that type of scenario happening there. And we do have one communal grave that we know of, and it was from the crew from the ship Echo, which sunk out here in the Tasman Peninsula. 3 of their bodies washed ashore. Because those men died together, they did determine that they could bury them together as well. So that is the only communal grave we have on the Isle of the Dead. Presently, sadly, the tours are not operating, as they are doing some maintenance work in both the Isle of the Dead and Point Claw. To give you a little story about Point Claw, we lost more staff there than we did boys. Is that a good indicator of what type of boys are arriving there? Good street kids, aren't they? In fact, when Point Claw opened on the 10th of January 1834, 68 boys arrived here with 21 adult males on the ship Tamar from Hobart. So that's about a 9 to 10 hour journey. And on that journey, one of the boys actually managed to break into the hull of the ship. He came across 6 months' supply of the Commandant's alcohol. 6 cases, 72 bottles, and in that 9 to 10 hour journey, they managed to drink every single bottle except one. Can you imagine how intoxicated they were? The record goes on to say that that Point Pool boy staggered ashore with that last bottle, found the Commandant and handed it to him. It does not say what the boy said though. This is my imagination now, okay? I believe the boy has found the Commandant and he's gone up and he's gone, "Thanks mate, great drop. Thought we'd better leave you one." Do you think he would have had a drink that night, the Commandant? I'm going to suggest no, because I'm going to suggest he was so angry he didn't know when his next lot of alcohol was coming, so he needs to save that one for as long as he possibly can. But what he did with the boys was he made them stand up in the heat of the day while he then lectured them on their wrongdoing. Do you think the boys cared much about that? I'm going to suggest they were too intoxicated to care about what was being said, because he does also write in his journal 3 to 4 days later that these boys of Point Paw are still absolutely useless for any kind of work. So in fact they're still drunk and probably not very well either. Our boys, as innocent as they are not. And of course they were using these waters back in these days to get supplies backwards and forwards across to Point Paw there via the whale boats for supplies, because one of the issues with Point Paw, of course, was there was absolutely nothing there, not even water. So that water was being transported across to this area as well. As a result, these waters are also the front gate of Port Arthur. Many escapees going to be trying to head out of these waters. We do have the escapes tour operating at 3 o'clock this afternoon.